everyone, and welcome back for a brand new episode of The Witching Hour. I am Perri Nemroff. I'm sitting across from Haleigh Fouch, who I haven't seen in way too long.
Welcome back.
But two other people I haven't seen in way too long. A year since Sundance last year. We've got the filmmakers of The Lodge here, Severin, Fiala, and Veronika, Franz. Thank you so much for coming in. She knows I've not shut up about your movie
Extremely
since January 2019.
We talk about horror once a week,
We do.
which means I've heard about it about once a week.
I think I've seen it like 5 times at this point. So I don't have a problem.
Really?
I don't
How
have a
did you manage
problem.
to
I
do that?
swear. I think it was because, what was it? It was Sundance, and then after that, did it go to Overlook? I think I saw it again at Overlook, and then through links prepping for the release, and then the release got pushed back, so I got another link, and I just have no problem watching it over and over.
She loves what she loves.
I do, and then I abuse my DVDs and screener links.
What else do you love?
I'm trying. I want to give you a genre movie that I watched obsessively last year, and that's easy because my number 2 movie of last year was Us.
Yeah.
Oh,
I watched Us a lot.
Yeah, okay.
Is there anything from last year that you guys really liked?
yeah, we thought about Border, like Grenz.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Yeah, we really enjoyed that one. Weirdest
Yeah.
sex scene like ever.
No, best weirdest sex scene. With
Yeah, that's weird is good,
hermaphrodite.
weird is good anyway, so.
Hermaphrodites. Wow, what a difficult word.
So for our viewers out there who don't know much about the two of you, in addition to The Lodge, you guys also wrote and directed Goodnight Mommy, which is also well worth checking out. But I am curious, what is it that made you guys say, I want to be filmmakers, but also specifically, we want to be genre filmmakers?
That's a very difficult question, actually. I think, and we might have different answers to that, because I went to film school and kind of always wanted to become a filmmaker and kind of learn it in school, because I think there was no other way I could think of. I'm a school person, or used to be, until I was disappointed by film school in a way. But it felt natural to me, and horror just because I think it has been my first love when it comes to watching films. It's just extremely tense and can tell a lot about like taboos in society and stuff, but in a way that really gets to me. So I think that was natural that we wanted to make films like that.
And actually, I never wanted to become a filmmaker. But I also have to say, I didn't want to know what to become. So I started with journalism because I'm a very curious person, and I wanted to know more about the world. And I think, journalism is a good kind of good way to explore it and to get to know people. And at a certain point, I started writing about films actually. So, so I started like that, actually.
Well, now I have to ask, having that kind of background, I mean, what do you think about what we do? What was your experience with Goodnight Mommy, with the Sundance debut of The Lodge?
Yeah, it was kind of weird because I know the other side, of course. I know, and I really appreciate that you said you saw it 5 times, The Lodge, because usually journalists don't do that, in my experience. And I'm also talking about myself because time is short. You have to report and write about a lot of movies, and you love only certain of them. So it's kind of difficult. And so I kind of tried to protect me, and actually only Severin kind of read all the reviews or listened to.
And I only told her about the good stuff.
Yeah.
How did you make the leap then from journalism into filmmaking, since it wasn't like your goal to begin with?
Actually, it was around when I was 30 years old. I kind of went to New York and kind of worked as a journalist there. But I reported back home to Austria. And when it was for a year, and then I came back to Austria. And I felt very bored there, and I had the strong kind of feeling I have to move on, I have to do something else. And I met a documentary filmmaker, and I've interviewed him, and I thought, maybe as a journalist, you know how to research things, And so I thought maybe I can be of any help for him, and asked him, and this was the beginning of my film career and life.
And then what was it like deciding that you wanted to be co-directors
Yeah.
together? Was there ever any idea to maybe be a solo director, and then you kind of found something in each other that maybe you needed to improve upon as a director?
Yeah, actually, I think it's not like we always say, it was not a career plan, but we found out that we kind of share one brain and maybe one heart when it comes to movies. So it felt really natural in a way. So we actually started finding out that we loved the same stuff when I was like Veronika's babysitter. I mean, not her babysitter because she's a babysitter of her children. When I was like 14 years old, and I was a huge film fan and wasn't paid in money. You always says I didn't want money. I'm not sure.
No,
about
you
that.
were. Yeah, I really liked you because it was very cheap. Because he only wanted me to kind of rent VHS cassettes at the
good
nearest video store. So that yeah, I mean.
Yeah, and then she came home like at midnight or whenever, and I was watching films, and she would watch them with me, and then we found out we liked the same stuff, which was weird for me back then. I was like 14 and felt, okay, why does she like Friday the 13th part 8? I don't get it. But I liked it, and that's when we started to find out we liked the same stuff, and it naturally grew. It wasn't a career plan in a way to make films
Yeah,
together.
it was no intellectual decision at all. I always say it's kind of I'm not a believer, but it's kind of a gift if you get that from another person. I mean, as a journalist, I kind of most of the time I felt lonely because usually you're alone, you write alone, you kind of it's kind of I always was looking for someone to kind of collaborate. And I think if you are into film, you should be a collaborative person because this is what is it all about.
Makes me so happy to hear that. It's just like it's kind of unusual and very lucky when you can find that one person that you're totally in sync with. So when you find that person, you hold tight to them. That's why we keep podcasting together.
That's right. Yes.
And it's no love story. I mean, it is, but on another level.
So can you tell us a little bit about how The Lodge came into focus for you? So Goodnight Mommy comes out, gets a rave response. Does it make it much easier for you guys to get the next feature off the ground?
Actually, we had a next feature planned to get off the ground, but it was like a German-speaking thing that like a period piece, and we never thought about doing a film English language or in the US, so that wasn't in our minds at all, and we were kind of shocked, like by the success of Goodnight Mommy in a way, and by all the reactions and producers and agents coming up to us and asking if we wouldn't want to make a film in the US, and we told every single one of them no, and we were sincere about that. We didn't have any aspirations of doing that, but they didn't give up in a way. And then we gave up and said, okay, let's just say, okay, we sign agents, we read scripts just to basically make the whole pressure stop. And then we did, and we got like hundreds of scripts, most of them about twins. Like,
Yeah, we're good at that.
yeah, they thought we are the leading experts in making films with twin boys, and there is a surprising number of scripts involving twin boys, but we didn't want to do any of those movies. And then, like, once got a script that only said on the cover like Untitled Hammer thriller, and we felt, okay, Hammer, wow, that's kind of an honor because we're hugely in love with all the Hammer films from the 50s, 60s. 70s. So I think we read it and wanted to love it, and actually did. It was a very exciting, very thrilling script, which we felt, okay, there is something there, but we need to kind of make it our own, as we think we have a very specific way of telling our stories, hopefully like in a visual way, very atmospheric. And I think it's hard for screenwriters who just write something on spec and not with us in mind to get that right for us. So we kind of took the script and also wrote on it to make it our own and to make it like, turn it into like our kind of movie. Which took a while, and weirdly enough, producers were happy with what we wrote and financed it.
Do you find that now that The Lodge has similarly been a big festival hit like Goodnight Mommy was, that pressure to read more scripts, to do more projects has now intensified because of this film?
I think we are more professional. Like we got more professional about
But
the whole process.
A tiny bit more professional.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So. Because, you know, in Europe, you would never pitch, as a director, you would never do a pitch for a film. It's just not how the system works in Europe. And so when we kind of got scripts, even though when we liked it, then we found out, okay, they sent it not only to us, but to 10 other directors, and you have basically to pitch yourself. And we are not good in promoting ourselves or selling ourselves, because this is not how we grew up. So
we're very Austrian. It's more or less we try to convince producers that we're not the right people for the job, and we're very good at that actually. Like we managed to do like in several occasions to really convince the other person that we might not be the correct or the perfect directors for the job. So that's.
But actually, there was one, we were very close. There was one episode of Black Mirror. They kind of asked us, and you know, by that time we already knew. Okay, maybe they asked many directors. So we said, okay, how many people are involved? They said, oh, they only asked two directors.
You and one.
So
other
you
person.
and one other person. So we kind of really prepared and tried and pitched.
50-50 chance.
As good as we can.
I hope they circle back about that.
Yes, actually they declined.
They said we shouldn't do it.
And then we asked them, so who was the other kind of guy or person or director? And they said, oh, it was Jodie Foster. And I said, okay.
I mean, not a half bad person to be going
Yeah,
up against there.
But like, very
the
good
thought of you
competition.
two directing a Black Mirror episode is going to be stuck in my head now.
Yeah, we really like it.
Yeah, we really like it.
It's a great show.
It's a good fit. I see your aesthetic and your tone fitting very well with that kind of material.
But actually, I think we would make it like a 2-hour episode, like in our our way of doing it makes stuff longer, because we try to work our way around dialogue, and if you tell it like visually and without so much dialogue, it takes much longer. So I think the classical Black Mirror episode is like 2 hours when we do it.
Well, actually,
that was part of my pitch, which means don't take us for Black Mirror because we're gonna do it too long.
Hi. Speaking of that kind of approach to storytelling here, it makes me think of the Dollhouse material that you shot. You know, some mood and atmospheric making material that doesn't necessarily have dialogue. So is that something that was in the script from the very beginning, or was that your aesthetic idea to put into it?
Oh, it was our idea actually. Yeah, it was not included in the first version of the script. And we kind of like the idea that we play with expectations and we play with the audience. We always like that. So that we kind of show this dollhouse, and then we show the real house, the lodge. And sometimes you don't know where you are, or you might not be sure if someone is kind of pulling the strings and playing.
It's like a metaphor for the whole
Yes.
film. You can never be too sure who is playing with the dolls or who is like playing with the puppets on the strings.
Please tell me you kept the dollhouse.
Yeah, it's like
I have it. In my attic in Vienna.
Do you take care of like little sea monkeys that still live inside of it? No?
Actually, my boys, I have 2 children, my boys did when they were young. So this, some small autobiographical
That's
things
like a
are in
nice
there.
little touch there. I like that.
it's always dangerous if we in our films say it's autobiographical because people think we're crazy, but some parts of course are.
About sea monkeys?
That's a very healthy
crazy.
thing to
Sea
have as a
monkeys.
kid.
But then your kids go like, thanks for putting me in this really dark, disturbing film.
Yes, of course.
It's a natural cycle.
Are they old
Even
enough
my
to
mom
watch
said
it?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
Are they into genre films also?
Yeah, I mean, I think so actually. The younger one, he's now 16. He saw Goodnight Mommy when he was 14, but I didn't allow him to watch it, but he did, like, secretly.
That's what 14-year-olds do.
Yes, actually with the twin boys who are his friends in the meantime, like the actors. So actually, he said it was his first real horror movie, and yeah, since that he's kind of
That's what happens when your starting point is a movie like that. So you guys are also extremely talented when it comes to casting here too. And with this ensemble, the family dynamic is super important. Was there any particular role you thought you had to cast first and then build the ensemble around, or was it just as the the offers went out, the auditions happened, and how everything unfolded naturally?
I don't think that we had like this one person and build everything around because like also in the movie they're not like connected. Grace is like not somebody who is part of that family. So we felt, of course, the boy and the girl, they should be like, they should work together well and they should fit. And for example, there's the story we always tell, there is this one girl who looks exactly like the twin sister of the younger sister, maybe, or twin sister of Jaden Martell, who is now in the movie. And everyone said, okay, you could take her, she looks exactly right. But we felt with Leah, whom we really deeply love, who plays the part now, it made much more sense for us because she has such a tremendous energy and she really keeps pushing Jaden and keeps pushing the whole thing. And the other girl, she looked like perfect, but still she was very similar to Jaden, meaning very introverted and a bit shy. And for a movie where like something needs to happen and things need to go on and we rely on improvisation, somebody needs to be the very energetic part who keeps pushing, and in our case that was Lear. So those two, I think we needed to, like, there is not one person and the other good person, but they only work in relation to each other.
But of course, it's all about chemistry between people. And actually, in Europe, we are used to audition all the actors or actresses
together also.
Together.
Yeah.
And also famous ones, which is like in this system, in the US system, was not possible for us. I mean, okay, if you're Quentin Tarantino, maybe everyone kind of queues to be auditioned. But in our case, we could like watch films, we did Skypes, we kind of met actors and actresses in person, but we didn't audition Riley, for example, which was actually a good lesson for us because we learned that you have to really trust your kind of, how do you say, guts or like your intuition. So by just talking to her, and we really kind of knew immediately, like even in the first Skype, during the first Skype, and then when we met her, that she's the one.
It was a great Skype because she was rather sleepy and appeared as if she wouldn't know for which movie we were talking, who we were, what the whole thing was about, and we saw something in her nevertheless and felt, okay, she's totally right. She was very honest, fragile,
very
funny, very unpretentious at the same time, so we could feel, okay, she's
not
right.
vain at all.
Yeah.
She's so good. I still kind of can't get over her performance in this, but it was really weird having seen her in your movie last year. And then have you heard of the movie Zola?
Yeah, we
heard about that.
She's in that too, and it's just between the two movies, you could see that she's got more range than just about anyone out there. Between the two performances, I'm just like, I'm blown away by her.
No, she's
us too.
Yeah, she's so disciplined. I mean, it's kind of, she's really, she's very normal at the same time, very much herself, but she's a super disciplined, hardworking actress. So, and we were like surprised that she didn't have like more like leading parts so far, and we hope this changes now for her because she's like one of the most talented people around.
When you're directing a leading actor on a movie that needs them to go to such high emotional highs and things like that, were you able to in any way shoot in sequence or save the highest points? And how did you sort of dictate where she needed to be throughout?
Yeah, we shot in sequence, which was a very hard thing to achieve because like making films, I mean, it costs a lot of money. It's production obviously wants to structure it in a way that makes most sense for them, which means very time and money efficient. Shooting in sequence is like the opposite of that. I mean, it makes no sense for production at all. You have to have actors fly in several times. You have to, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But for us, it makes ultimately it's the thing that makes most sense and that really helped our actors to go to those dark places. Because we always say, like, if we had shot the last scene first, then it's just like we are all guessing where the movie will end up, and I think no one would have guessed that they would go that far. So if you start at one point and then keep going, like to a very dark place, I think you go much further than you would have expected. And I think that's what we tried, like take the actors like by the hand in a way and just keep going and see where we end up.
Actually, we already worked like this in Goodnight Mommy, and we also, I mean, in Goodnight Mommy, we didn't even give scripts out, so the boys would not know the story, and so we kind of only talked the scenes through and explained to them what's going on, and so we kind of worked on it from day to day basis. This is not possible here, of course, because you have to send it out to everyone.
Well, like
And
you
the
said,
thing- sorry.
please no.
No, I think it's also like not so necessary here, because like also the child actors like Jaden and Lear, they are also like incredible and incredibly professional. Like in Austria, like the boys, they had never been in front of a camera before, and you have to think a lot or like invest a lot like to protect them in a way to like the worst thing is if they get the idea, oh, I'm an actor, I'm now very important, I'm on a stage. So this is the opposite of what we're going for, and we did everything to prevent that from happening. Like first thing being like not even giving them a script. That was not necessary this time.
Well, like you said, sort of shooting in sequence is the opposite of what the logistics team probably wants you to do. So how do you convince the money people that that's what needs to happen?
I mean, it was difficult, but it was not that difficult because it was shot in one house, basically, the lodge. And we had, the surroundings, like the snow and the isolation. This was difficult to achieve. Yeah, because, Americans usually they say, okay, let's go go to a studio and shoot it there, and at first they showed us like houses on location. They all looked isolated, but they weren't, because they were like the highway underneath and like neighbors, and this was kind of a misunderstanding in the beginning. So we
for
kind
us,
of
it's like it's an overall package. Like I think we know what we want, and like shooting in sequence, as Veronika said, is only possible if you are on location, if you can use the inside and the outside of the house, like the exterior shots, if you can like 360 use everything around, if you're flexible, then our way of shooting is possible, and it's not possible in any other way. Like if you have to split exterior and interior shots, it's not possible to work that way. And we could explain it like to the producers because they wanted us like to do the movie and they liked Goodnight Mommy, so we could just like tell them, okay, but this film only worked because we did it that way, and we want to do it again because otherwise it might not work.
So what is the geography of the house like in reality versus what we see on screen? Is that the actual layout, or are there any moments where you had to kind of like cheat where a room was?
Actually, we cheated more in Goodnight Mommy.
Yes.
Oh
This
my
house
God.
is just a house.
That's so incredibly fortunate.
yes,
we looked
actually.
at a lot of houses.
Yeah, actually, I think we fell in love. Yeah, we looked for, I don't know, for weeks and months. So
Yeah, it
actually,
was
the
crazy.
producers were desperate because we could not find the right place. But then when we saw this house, like the attic was so kind of
It's so special,
impressing and
weird.
special and weird. And yeah, so we kind of fell in love with that, and then we kind of and also we included like the opinion of the cinematographer, who is like the most important collaborator of ours, and he also liked it, and yeah.
No, actually, I think it's the other way around. It's not like that we cheated with this house, but that actually we saw things that this house really had, and then we re-included those in the script. So actually there was no attic in the script, but we saw it and felt, okay, this is like the best thing about the house. We need to write something for the attic. And then we asked ourselves, what's the proper moment in the script for this ethic to appear. It's like directing actors. Is you always have to ask yourself, when is the perfect moment for this trait, for this character trait, for this thing to appear in a way. And also with the ethic, we waited for quite a while in the movie to show the ethic, because we feel it's rather impressive and it makes a strong impression, and it might not have made this impression when we show the ethic just at the moment when they arrive at the lodge in a way. So we saved it for later.
So what Severin is saying is that we treat the house as a character. We also did that with Good and Mummy. It always kind of, it has kind of, human, I don't know. I don't know, feelings, maybe not, but it has, like, how do you say, Eigenschaften?
Character traits in a way.
Character traits.
And we, it has character traits, and also we use it to tell something about, like in this case, it's because it's the house of the
mother of the children.
So it's kind of, it tells something about her. It's like the mother watching the children and watching Riley, watching the new
life. Yeah.
That's also like, if you ask yourself, how do I shoot this shot and where do I put the camera? That's also something that that plays a huge part of that. Like then when we decided with the cinematographer together that we wanted like it to look as if the mother, or as if somebody watched them, like for example.
Now that puts into focus like a couple of direct overhead shots that are going to have new meaning for me when I watch it a sixth time.
Yes.
So we're nearing spoiler territory now. Do you want to ask any more non-spoiler things before we creep over there?
Nothing's leaping out at me. You? Any last hurdles to clear?
I'm just so excited to get into spoilers. I can't help it.
I know.
All right.
Because then we get to talk
really,
about the whole
really
movie.
go into it. So hopefully at this point we've convinced you to check out The Lodge. It's going to be in theaters on February 7th. So do check it out. Neon is releasing this one. I'm a big fan of Neon. So congratulations just for everybody who's leaving us. Keep an eye out for it. And here's the warning. This is your one and only warning. The Lodge spoilers are happening right now. Leave if you haven't seen the movie. Go see it and then come right back for this part of the conversation. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to take it first?
Whoa. Sure. Yeah. I am curious if there was ever, as you were writing the script, reworking the script, whatever you want to describe it as, a consideration to stay with the kids from their point of view as this was all happening, or if it was always sort of a mystery type situation.
Yeah, I don't think so, actually. I think in this case, like in Good Night Mommy, it was like we thought like the initial plan was to split it like 50-50. First, only show it from the kids' point of view, and then only stay with the mother. And we didn't it didn't turn out to be that clear, like 100% clear after all, but that was the idea. And in that case, the idea was to switch the perspective much more often, so that you as an audience, you can never be sure. Like we describe it, you're on a layer of ice, like, or on a frozen lake, and you can never be sure how thick is the ice. Am I gonna break in? So you're walking, and you could like every step could be the last one, and that could also go for like the person whose point of view you share. You're with one person, and then maybe you're with another one, and then you're forced to be with another one. So the whole film is designed never to be too sure about anything. Also, the perspective of the lodge and the dollhouse, as Veronika mentioned before, I think it's all things to keep you at the edge and to make you uncertain or unsure of what's gonna happen next, even like who's gonna be the protagonist next.
I am just generally a bit afraid of children, so I'm always very suspicious of them. And I just was... There's a version of that film you were kind of saying, we were talking about it before, where you follow them sort of rigging the house and doing the hijinks. That would be very interesting to see, because children are terrifying.
Yes, so are adults, I think.
That's also
Humans
true.
are terrifying.
No, that's very, very accurate.
Yeah.
Sorry, one last thing to that. I mean, showing the children rigging the house, yeah, that could be interesting, but actually we felt it's much, like for us, it was much more interesting to stay with the kids after the twist in a way. So we ask ourselves, how would this movie go on? Because the first version of the script, it was like finished after the twist, basically. I mean, there is this showdown, but then it was done. We felt, okay, what would happen afterwards? If it was a real situation, there is this twist, we know the kids did that, and the question is, what would happen like in reality? And we actually really thought that would be like the thing that interested us most.
Did you ever work with Jaden on a little bit of backstory for Aiden? Because this is a pretty big prank in a sense to have pulled off. So I was just curious, is there anything in his history, like things he used to do in school or anything like that, that would kind of point to him heading down this kind of path?
We didn't tell him anything like that, actually, but both kids really, when they came to set, they were very prepared. So first day they came, we kind of gave them an improvisation, exercise. So we told them, oh, please talk about your mother, like just as siblings, talk about her, what you like about her, what you don't like. And they could improvise for an hour without any mistake. So we didn't give him like a specific character trait. I mean, he's a climber, like he likes to climb. You see that, like he has on a wall. I don't know if you have seen it, even though you saw it 5 times. But in his room there is a wall, like where he climbs, and he also kind of climbing gear in his kind of suitcase or bag. So he has this kind of like hobby.
Yeah.
But as a character,
I think
trait,
it's like they're so, like all of those actors were so amazing that I think that's stuff that they would really think about for themselves. So I think this is stuff they would prepare. What we did is like stupid stuff. Like we felt, okay, your brother and sister, you need to spend every second together from now on. You need to go ice skating. You need to do this. We just did like brother-sister stuff to make like this family work together. I think that's something that you can prepare on your own. Like Jaden is like the most amazing actor, but he can't prepare being the brother of Leah without Leah. So we felt now we have to really focus on bringing this family together and making them like really know each other and trust each other.
And actually, I don't even think the kids are especially evil. Actually, to me, like when we kind of worked on the script, it's not. I mean, they blame Grace being responsible for the death of her mother, and they don't like to go with her to the lodge. And it's kind of kids can come up with like pranks, and I think the tragic about it is that they underestimate what they are going for. And this was what interested us, that they actually at a certain point want even to take it back because they underestimated it. And so they are no monsters actually. As everyone else, they are kind of human beings, and they can do good and bad. And this is, I think, what interests us.
I think, yeah, like we could say we're very like sadists in a way. Because
really?
I think it's not about showing sadistic people like with a twist and somebody's evil and then it's like that, but we bring all of those people who are actually, for us, they're innocent, we bring them in a terrible situation and watch them being stuck there. So that might be sadistic.
It's like a laboratory of Dr. Sachamasoch.
Yes, I think you kind of hit on why I find kids scary, though, because it's not an act of evil. It's just like not completely developed morality and the conviction that what you're doing what you believe in.
That makes it very scary, I think so too, because it's like happening with an innocence. It's like terribly violent sometimes. I mean, not in our movie, but what kids do is sometimes terribly violent, but at the same time innocent, and that makes it very hard to take, I think.
Did you guys find yourself empathizing with a specific character, in the script phase, and maybe that changing as you went through production? Because I was telling Haleigh earlier that on my first viewing, I was much quicker to forgive the kids, and the more I watch it, the more my heart breaks for Grace.
This was intended.
Success.
Yeah, actually, I think we feel for all of them. As Severin said, it's like a laboratory, like a situation in a laboratory. Like so, you kind of you you put them together, and like I think. It's always depending on the situation. I mean, every one of us can be good or bad depending on the situation, because we all have a certain character, and I think being good or being bad are two sides of the same coin or of the same medal. So in certain situations you would be good, and the same kind of character trait is bad in another situation. So we don't believe in like only bad people or only good people, but in people who kind of are also depending on situations they're in. And there is another issue we always have is like about communication. So, I mean, I think Americans are maybe different than us in Europe. I find it that you kind of communicate more directly than us. So for us, it's always like one of the themes we have is how to talk like honestly about problems or about abysses or about fears. How would you do that?
Our film could be a pretty normal family movie if they just talk to each other properly.
Maybe even a comedy.
Oh my god. That actually would be a really interesting exercise if like The Lodge 2 wasn't necessarily a direct sequel, but just like a complete reimagining of the situation from that kind of perspective.
Yes.
A functional version. That's
I
interesting.
mean, we
kinda
might be the
curious to
wrong
see it now.
directors. Yeah, we might be the wrong directors for functional families. But
We guys,
Go for it, you first.
you also with this movie get to sort of tap into a very robust subgenre, which is cult horror. And I'm curious sort of what your approach was to creating your own movie cult, and how much you wanted to show, how much you wanted to leave up to the imagination, and how much there is for people to rewatch and discover more if they want to.
yeah, I think we're usually like, as with The House, we're usually inspired by reality. So we researched lots of actual cults and took all the bits and pieces that we liked. It's more or less not movie cults or cults. I mean, we love, like, of course, Wicker Man and Devil's Reign and stuff like that. But still, for inspiration, we went to, like, those real cults and watched documentaries and took the parts that we liked. And actually, we have to, like, also say, as we're inspired by people, the cult leader in our movie is, like, Riley's actual father. And we were like casting, didn't find somebody to play our cult priest. We had cast Riley at this point. She was FaceTiming her dad. She just like turned her mobile phone and said, "Say hi to my dad." And we're like, okay, that's the guy. That's the guy. And,
We need him.
and of course, he also like shaped the cult in a way, just with his like appearance, his personality. He brought himself also to this.
His
He was, like-
voice.
his voice. He was like improvising, so a lot of his personality is also like in the cult. So it's like not our like vision in a way. It's like lots of small pieces. Like, as filmmaking is always about collaboration. I think lots of people and things and universes contributed to our cult.
What was his reaction when all of a sudden you guys approached him and said, "How about playing our cult leader?"
Actually, I think he was very cool. He said, "Why not?"
He's a very cool guy.
He's a musician, and actually he was great because he had to play underwater scenes. And he used to be like a diver in Hawaii. So he was very professional and could kind of also protect Riley, who also had to kind of do these underwater scenes, and which are difficult if you're not used to it, because you have no air and you have to, it's scary actually. So they
It's
worked.
almost like it was all meant to be.
Yes, and that was like the best thing about casting that we found out, and that's like, we know we can trust ourselves and our instincts, I think, even more after this film, because we found out that all the characters or the actors had something to do with the characters they played like on a deeper level, and we didn't know about that. We hadn't like talked to them for that long, but every single one was really connected to the character, which was weird. Like, not only like Riley's father being a scuba diver, I mean, that's not part of it, but he also kind of grew up in a cult-like environment, which we didn't know, but he was like at one point when we shot kind of really touched or moved or whatever, and we asked him like if he was all right, and then he said, yeah, it's just like when I grew up. And I was like, we didn't know about that, but it was like true for all the characters that they had something to do with, or for the actors that they had something to do with the characters they played.
I also wanted to ask you guys about the other house out in the snow, and just specifically about the process of designing that and how you settled on that particular vision in the end.
It's real.
It's real, of course. We
only-
found it.
Why does that exist?
That's a good question that we can answer. It's a memorial thing that three brothers who own some land, like in north to Montreal, in the exact spot that their father died. They built this weird cross-shaped, crucifix-shaped house, like as a memorial. But they're also hunters, so they would use it like for hunting and shoot like animals from the top of the house. And unfortunately, it's not existing anymore because there was a huge blizzard that took it down, because those brothers didn't have, I think, so many, they were not like really good at building houses that last for longer than some years. So.
Yeah, and actually, we at first when we found it, we considered it also to be like the main lodge, but of course, I mean, this cross shape, it's too weird and too extreme to be kind of the lodge where they kind of regularly go to spend their vacation. So we kind of found some way. It was not in the script actually, so we found a house. So we said, okay, we have to use this incredible house. So we kind of included it by writing some additional scenes that she is like.
But it's
seeing it.
Yeah, it's really like for us like about reality, also in the sense that for the lodge we looked at really lots of lodges, not only like for real, but also like on the internet and in books and stuff, just to get those weird ideas. People do stuff that you couldn't think of, like in their lodge. It's rather like weird stuff, like putting a television exactly in front of a window or above the fireplace, where it also doesn't make any sense. But seeing all of those weird images really inspires us strongly, and we feel that's where and taking those bits from reality and reassembling them and turning it into a genre, like a vision in a way, that's, I think, what we're good at and interested in.
So now that we're in spoiler territory, I did want to ask about working with Jaden and Leah, and also Riley too, with some of like the really intense high emotion scenes. You talk about the stuff in the attic. Was there any one scene like that in particular where you guys you had to be looking out for your cast to make sure everyone was comfortable, and just what was the most challenging thing in that kind of sense?
I think the most challenging thing was the ending, actually. It really got to us. I mean, all of us, actually. So the very last scene.
I'm sure it's even more powerful for you guys when you're shooting in sequence.
Yes.
And it's like not just
yes,
like a really
because you
intense
go there
scene.
together.
Yeah.
I mean, you go like, you go there together holding hands and hoping not to fall into all these abysses we kind of stare
And
at.
then you shoot it 5 times.
Of course. But to me, it was really like the last scene really felt magic, and it really touched me. So I can say that. Usually it's also mechanical, or you have to repeat scenes, so it's not that magical. But actually, I think it's interesting that you say the kids and also Riley, because I think for us the kind of the journey Riley takes into kind of I don't know where to. This was very, very difficult to achieve. like the graduation of it, so that it kind of, it's not overdone at first, and then kind of
so that it all makes sense.
And
like,
at one point it was very funny. She said to us, usually I only have to play one of those crazy scenes per movie, but I have to do it every day here.
Yeah.
That's what she said. So
she really had her work cut out for her.
Yes.
Well, also with the final shot, I'm sort of like, one of my obsessions is opening and closing shots of a film. And I'm curious about your guys' sort of journey to landing on those. How much was it found in the edit and finding the exact moment to cut it, and how much of it was in the writing and knowing the imagery you wanted?
The honest answer, like for the closing shot, is that we always knew how the film, like how the ending should feel. That it should like really, it's like eating some chicken and then you realize the bone is like stuck and you're like, oh, and then we wanted the film to end like that.
And also the singing, so all what's happening like was planned like that.
But like actually what we shot or how we wanted to shoot it was like it was conceived a bit differently. It was like it starts with the dollhouse and the whole film should have ended with the camera like flying out of the house, and then you have this house looking like the actors and the house again like a dollhouse, which conceptually made total sense to us. But still, like for the camera to pull back and go out of the house, it takes a long time in a way, and it felt too big. Like the gesture in a way was too big, too pretentious, and not like you realize that you like have a chicken bone stuck in your throat, and you're like, okay, I have to get this out. What am I gonna do? So it was like it lost some of the tension it had. So. And every one of us realized that, but we couldn't solve it. And then actually Aaron
until the very last day of editing.
Yes. And we had our
very
producer like in the editing room, and he suggested like something like that, and we all were like, "That's amazing." And then he started like doubting his own decision. He was like, "Okay, if they like it, something's wrong." Oh no, I didn't mean it like that. But then it was too late to pull back, and we think it's kind of the right note to end the movie.
Yeah, makes a big impression.
Yeah, and just a real quick follow up on that. There's always, ties into like the how do you end your movie, because like really any movie could, in theory, end a million ways, right? But like specifically this ending, and it is that feeling you're choking on something. How was there ever a variant in how much you showed of like how bad that gets immediately after you cut? Because it leaves you with that pit and that feeling. There's definitely, I feel, some filmmakers who would have gone the full in-your-face route and show you everything. So I'm curious your decision not to do that.
But I think that would even I think if I would kind of show it or see it longer, then it would feel in a way cathartic in a weird way, because then you play it out and it's not something whatever happens. It doesn't stay with you in a way, there are different kind of variation what could happen. So I think this makes much more sense. But yes, we tried different versions of you could hear kind of gunshots, for example,
when
but
you're outside of the house.
Yes, but we never kind of wanted to show.
We think it's right, like for the imagery of like purgatory, that the kids actually they want to convince her they are in purgatory, and by doing that and really pushing her over the edge, they actually end up in exactly that place that it started as a prank, but they end up in actual purgatory. And in purgatory, I think you're stuck, and that's why we felt we cannot resolve the situation either way. Either she shoots the children shoot her. That would be kind of a resolve, but they're all stuck there for eternity in a way, and in the worst possible moment, in the moment where oh God, it's so terrible, and that's kind of going on forever now. And
yeah, you don't know what's going to happen, but it's probably not good.
One super random question. We're both big fans of The Thing. How'd you settle on that footage in the movie?
It's one of the coldest movies, and we felt we need to have something to chill them down even more in a way.
It just made me really happy to see that.
first off, we totally love the movie, like as you all do, I think. It's one of the greatest horror films, and it's also a horror film where you never know who's the thing, who is the bad guy, who is the monster. And we felt this really, like on a different level, reflects what we were trying to do. You can never be sure in our movie, like all of them are like have all the shades of gray and are not like purely evil, or something evil might come up. It's like the thing, it's unexpected and you don't know. So we feel those films are connected, although like the thing is like a true masterpiece, and we're like, yeah.
Did you
We're
guys
fans.
have a backup if you couldn't get the rights to use it?
We're not backup people usually.
Good for you.
Definitely applaud that. So as we wind down this episode of The Witching Hour, we
Yes.
always like ending on the same 2 questions. You want to go first, or should I?
You go first.
Okay.
This time.
So I'll go with the lighter one first.
Surprise
we,
me.
we ask everybody this question. Do you have any pets?
Right now,
Yeah.
I don't.
No.
Oh wow.
Okay.
It's very rare.
Yeah. We're drawing a big
Really?
connection with genre filmmakers being big pet lovers.
Yeah.
But you kill a dog in the movie, so
Oh.
we're in the spoiler section. It's fine.
We hate dogs and children, so
I'm only offended by the dog part.
most people are. That's weird.
Isn't it
people like
weird?
dogs more than humans. That's not really understandable to me. I mean, I like dogs actually, but
I think, well, aren't humans by nature kind of self-loathing a little bit? So it kind of makes sense to me. Like, you don't see yourself in a dog, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
It's also because the dogs are more helpless. Like,
Maybe.
yeah, like, I feel worse for them. I mean, they're not completely defenseless. I
got
don't know.
big
I'm just
teeth.
trying to give myself an excuse right now.
to talk about dogs.
Yeah, really.
Okay, so
But we had. I mean, I never had pets actually. I wanted to have a turtle, but my
had-
mom didn't buy me one.
I had
Oh.
guinea pigs. I had
Yeah, you had. I even know the names of
dogs.
her guinea pigs.
I had cats.
That's how well we know each other.
What was the guinea pig's name?
Hansi, no, what? No, that was the
That was the gold hamster.
gold hamster. Gold hamster is. It's
No,
kind of a-
there was Tick, Trick, and Truck, the 3 guinea pigs.
You never told me about those. There's still some secrets left.
uncovered.
Thank you for giving us that, and
It's a
thank you so
great-
much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you guys use social media? Is there anywhere our viewers can kind of like follow your work and
I mean,
see everything as it evolves?
Actually, no. We can give our phone numbers. Maybe you can call us.
Maybe keep that to yourself. Instead, I will just
Keep an eye on IMDb.
actually,
How about that?
his mobile phone doesn't work here in the States because it's such an old phone.
wow.
It's not working.
No, I haven't been called in days, and it's not so bad actually.
It's nice to be a little freeing, as long as you know that you're going to go home to your house and the power's not going to be out and you could charge it when you need
There
to,
you
right?
go.
Just in case. In that case, though, I'm going to urge everyone out there, if you're still with us now, you've probably seen The Lodge, but that also means you should be telling people who haven't seen The Lodge to see it, so get on that. Haleigh, where can everyone find your work on the socials?
You can find me on Twitter at Haleigh Fouch and Instagram at Haystack McGroovy.
And I'm at P. Nemiroff on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. You have officially survived The Witching Hour.